Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Fort Worth Community Arts Center and another edition of our fantastic boxed lunch program. I know things a little weird today. I actually have a physical body next to me. I cannot even believe it. I am so overwhelmed. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please help me in welcoming Martha Peters. How are you doing today, Martha?
Great, great. And we're both vaccinated.
Yes, absolutely, totally protected as much as we can be with the Delta variant and all the things going on. Oh, I trust the science, I trust the vaccinations, and more importantly, I'm so glad you're trusting enough to actually come and sit in a physical room with me. So thank you. And Martha, before we get into all of our wonderful information today, do you mind just telling our viewers a little bit about yourself, who you are, and what it is you do?
Well, as you said, I'm Martha Peters. I'm the Director of Public Art with the Arts Council of Fort Worth and Tarrant County. And my main job is to manage the Fort Worth Public Art Program for the city, which we do as contractors. I have now this month been in the field of public art 30 years.
Wow.
30 years. It's astounding. But I started out in Austin in 1991 and managed the program there for 12 years, and then got persuaded or lured to Fort Worth in 2003 and been here ever since.
Well, we are very, very fortunate to have you. I know a lot of people may not necessarily understand this, but at the Fort Worth Community Arts Center, we have several colleagues, cohorts, whatever you want to say, in this building as well. So not only do we have outer residents, we also have inner residents umbrellaed with the Arts Council of Fort Worth as well. So you actually live, so to speak, upstairs in the Fort Worth Community Arts Center.
With no windows.
Just right around the corner from our non-windowed office as well. But we do have this beautiful window behind us. And the whole reason that we are here today is because of this fantastic building behind us, the Pioneer Tower. So before we move into that, do you feel comfortable giving us a little bit of background, not only about the Pioneer Tower event coming up in just a few short days, actually, but can you give us a little background or maybe some history of the tower itself?
Oh, the tower itself, yes. Well, it was built in 1936, along with the rest of the two buildings alongside the Auditorium and Coliseum, as part of the Texas Centennial. So this building, the tower, and both other buildings are on the National Register of Historic Places now. And the murals on the front, of course, were part of that as well. And most recently, in 2018, 2019, the tower went through a rehabilitation process. Folks may recall that on all four sides, there was sort of this metal grating, which basically covered up glass brick, which was failing. So now we have glass brick there, and they did some structural supporting and some other things like all the electrical is new. They added LED lighting so they can change colors of the lights. So we got involved in the public art project around that time, so we were able to take advantage of that construction project.
Nice. Yeah, a lot of people are starting to find out about this wonderful event that comes August 20th and 21st. But what a lot of people may not know is that there has been a huge renovation already, and the tower does light up. It is really, really incredible to see. I think that we have a wonderful vantage point over here.
Right.
And I just am really, really quite excited to see this fantastic public art exhibit that's coming on this upcoming weekend. Along with that, more incredible artists on the ground. We've been visiting with them over the last few weeks as well, and quite excited about all of that. So before we get into all of the details, this is Box Lunch. I am so excited. Martha brought all kinds of wonderful things, and I may actually get to physically try somebody else's box lunch menu rather than myself. So I brought this incredibly easy to fix pesto Genovese quinoa. I have no idea what it is. And
Granola, you mean quinoa?
quinoa. Okay, so there you go. And people tell me to eat healthier. And I thought I'd done a great job, but I'm even more impressed that someone thought ahead, brought 2 little cups, it looks like. So I'm thinking I may actually get to try somebody's box lunch after, I think this is the 87th or 88th box lunch that we have done. And I finally get to eat someone else's food rather than myself. So while she's prepping some of this, I'll have her tell us. I'm just gonna say, I got this at a CVS. They're very quick. They're very easy. 1 minute. You put the pesto in with the, what's it called again?
Quinoa.
Quinoa. And then you just mix it up. So I'll eat that later. And I'm going to lean on this wonderful recipe. And I'm going to let Martha tell us real quick what it is she's making and the ingredients that are in it.
Sure. Well, I'm a big fan of smoothies. I guess I'm an old hippie. We had smoothies. My mother made smoothies. At any rate, yeah, it's a go-to thing, especially when it's hot. And I love ice cream, but I try not to eat that too much. But a smoothie's healthier, but it kind of gives you that, that same comfort food
Absolutely.
vibe, So normally I'll have a smoothie for breakfast, but since I've been working from home, I've been having them at lunch too. It's just quick, easy, and refreshing.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And ingredients you put in there?
Well, I started out with apple juice and some low-fat vanilla yogurt, or sometimes I'll use non-fat yogurt. Some raw organic protein powder, plant-based protein powder. And then another healthy thing are greens. I must admit, we shop at Central Market.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Central Market, so they have these, super greens, they're called. And we like to put them in scrambled eggs, and I just put handfuls in the smoothie. But guess what? You're not really going to taste it.
Hey man, I'm up for anything. I'm just excited to eat someone else's cooking other than myself. I say cooking. I'll take anything at this point because I still say again and again, I really thought I had some cooking skills, and these box lunches have shown me I really have some skills to learn.
Yeah. Well, I'm with you. My husband's the cook in our house, although I've been trying to do more.
Well, you've already surpassed me. Where she uses protein, I would probably just put a few more scoops of sugar in.
Okay, next go blueberries. The other thing we do at our house is, grocery shopping's on Saturday, and there's always a lot of berries purchased because we like, yogurt and all that stuff. But, after a few days in the fridge, they get a little mushy, and that's the time you put them in the freezer. So if you store them in a Ziploc, you can just stick them in the freezer,
Nice.
and they're like ice. You don't have to use ice in the smoothie because the fruit's giving you the ice.
See, again, very valuable lesson. That's pretty much all mine is ice, sugar, and vodka.
I'll try that one. Okay. And there's other berries in here. The other thing that's important, and this may look a little gross, a frozen banana. And they get a little brown looking because they're frozen without the skins on, but it's perfectly good.
A lot of people throw away their brown bananas, and I don't know if everybody understands. There's a ton of things to do with it. Banana bread, banana pudding, all kinds of stuff that you can do with that once they've started to turn a little bit. And I've also seen, I believe this is overseas, they've started packaging bananas now based on a 5-day week. So you get one that is yellow, and then it goes all the way to green so that you don't waste them, and you can just pull up the one that is ripe and ready, so to speak. And it sounds like they set you up to succeed. So I'm going to fool all our viewers out there. I'm assuming you're going to push that button.
Yeah. So.
And then when you do, I'm going to move my mouse so they think I'm saying something important, and then they can just fill in the blanks and have it be whatever it is.
Here we go.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
Wait, is it on?
Oh, wait a minute. Here, no, I got to plug it in here. Oh, this is the beauty of recording and doing things live is that you always have to set yourself up easier. Give it a whirl, see what happens. Oh, still nothing? Oh, well, maybe I've got to.
It get plugged into the wall.
Well, I've got a light there.
Thank you.
Okay, well, here we go. That's all right. Let's see what's going on there. We'll just try a different outlet and see what that one does. Give that a whirl. Oh, Martha, I totally dropped the ball. That's okay. Here's the beautiful thing about what it is we're doing today. I am just going to pause and we'll be right back. Oh, and through the magic of editing and what we do here on live TV, I think we're ready now. So just like that, poof. And that is probably the most important thing that you should know about this whole meeting right there. If you need to, just rewind and you'll be able to decipher, hopefully through the subtitles, what it was I was saying while she was blending.
Can I
So,
get one more second?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just repeat it again. So if you take anything else away, that would be the most important point right there. So.
All right.
Okay, so while she's prepping this, we're going to see if Martha's a true leader she claims to be and see if she can multitask. So while you're pouring and prepping these beautiful, lovely smoothies, can you tell us a little bit about what people can expect whenever they come out this upcoming weekend for the Pioneer Tower exhibit that will be here in the Cultural District?
Sure. Well, what you will see, the first thing you'll see is the tower itself, because of course you can see it from lots of different vantage points around the city. All four sides of the tower will have projectors pointing at them. You won't see the projectors, but you're going to see an in the round video. The video is going to totally wrap. There's music, there's a soundtrack, and it's unlike any video most people I think have ever seen, because it's not a narrative, it's art. And what does that mean? Well, the artists, Rafiq Anadol and Quayola. Rafiq is from Turkey originally. He now lives in California, teaches at UCLA, and he, I have to remember, these turn the wrong way. It's lefty-tighty writing.
Oh, wow.
So, okay, here you go. You're locked and loaded now. Chin chin.
Cheers.
Not bad. So, Rafiq Anadol might be best known. This is something you could look up on YouTube or Google. He did an amazing piece for the LA Philharmonic for their 100th anniversary on the Frank Gehry building, the Disney concert hall. And he collected images, musical scores, video of the orchestra over all these years that they had kept in their archives. And so he uses that imagery, but it's not just, montage of imagery. He uses artificial intelligence, or machine learning, as he calls it. So he has computer programs, and he's worked with Google and Microsoft, other various organizations that are kind of pioneering this. And so he basically runs that data through this artificial intelligence. And as he said in his proposal for Pioneer Tower, he's wanting the machine to think about Fort Worth and dream about Fort Worth and sort of project into the future. So what you'll recognize first is what looks like a contact sheet going up the tower. You might recognize some imagery in there. There's millions of images he's using for Fort Worth. And it's all imagery from Fort Worth. It's either been presented to him through his website last year when he put out a call for memories, because he was seeking memories of places, our collective memories in the city. So he put out that call. That was open for 4 months last fall, October through this January. Also, he mined some archives, including the Star Telegram archive at the University of Texas at Arlington and some others. He also was able to pull social media images, so you never know, you might see something you posted on. But the main thing is this is site-specific artwork. All the data is from Fort Worth, and he is then creating art. It's going to be very abstract and mesmerizing, and even the soundtrack is data from radio stations and whatever, TV, radio. And so even the soundtrack is, again, a computer generated soundtrack from sound data.
Oh, wow, that sounds amazing.
So, and there will be speakers on the plaza facing toward Lancaster.
Right.
So you really, as you walk up, you're really going to feel that sound. The other artist, Quayola, his name is actually Davida Quagliola. He's born in Rome. He still lives in Rome. He also has a studio in London. And he likes to think about how mankind has portrayed nature in art throughout the eons, from the cave paintings through all the various different eras of art history. And so he's now kind of taking it to our 20th century, how by using computers and other technology can a person interpret nature in this technology-based art. So what he did, I should mention, both artists were able to come to Fort Worth to visit in January of last year.
Oh, wow.
Right before the pandemic, which was very fortunate because they were here for a few days. They got to see the tower. They were able to do some scoping of archives and sites and so forth. And they even got to go to the first night of the rodeo.
Oh, right.
Its first performance at Dickey's Arena. And Quayola was amazed. He loved it. He was really into it. So one thing that he was drawn to do is something about horses. He just loved the motion of the horses around the arena. So he wasn't able to come here himself, but he hired a local video team to video horses in a horse show here at Will Rogers. And he's using this motion detecting software. So he's basically animated horses in motion for part of his piece. And then the rest of it, he shot out at the Fort Worth Nature Center, or had someone else do this, laser scanning of trees. So these trees were scanned and have billions of data points. And you're going to see some tree imagery that looks very three-dimensional because of that.
Wow.
Again, there's abstraction, but there's also imagery you'll recognize, and he too has done a soundscape.
It just
well.
really sounds amazing. Now, I think it's important to point out too, this is a partnership with Aurora out of Dallas, and that seems to kind of be their bread and butter in terms of technology, advancing and tying that into art projects. Can you tell us just a little bit briefly about Aurora, who they are and what their part in this is as well?
Very happy to. As a matter of fact, Aurora has been going on for over 10 years. They started very small in a little park in Dallas, and they went on over the years to have these one-night outdoor art exhibitions, both in the Arts District in Dallas, and then the most recent big night they had was in, I think, November of 2018, where they were at the City Hall and Convention Center area. And they're the co-founders, Joshua King and Shane Pennington, are both artists, and they, along with Violetta Forsyth-Lill, I think her name is, she was a former council member of Dallas, who later became the director of the Arts District. The three of them co-founded this event called Aurora as a biennial that really focuses on art that uses sound and light and video. And from what I understand, it probably was more local at first. The first one I went to, I think, was in 2016, when they were projection mapping videos onto the Wiley Theater, which is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
But their model is, let's bring in some international artists that are big names, but let's also give a platform for local artists to present their work. And it might be on a smaller scale, but every much as interesting, because it's telling the local story. And I met Joshua King, I want to say maybe it was 2015 15 or so, over 5 years ago, we were both invited by the city of Dallas. They were doing a workshop for artists interested in entering public art.
Right.
And besides telling everybody what Dallas had to offer, they invited me to come over to talk about the Fort Worth Public Art Program and Joshua to talk about Aurora. And when I saw his video, I went, wow, we want that in Fort Worth. We want that kind of excitement. And he and I just started informally talking about how could we make this happen. And there was one point we made an attempt and wrote a grant and tried to get something going, but it didn't come through. But with the Pioneer Tower project, here we had funding. We had, the Pioneer Tower was put in our master plan update as a key gathering place in Fort Worth that we should address with destination quality art by national or internationally known artists. But it's a historic structure.
Yeah.
So we can't literally put something on it. And of course, there's lighting in the tower, but just having the artists do a light program of LED lights, that isn't really utilizing an artist's, ability. So this idea of projection mapping, it seemed like that's the way we had to go. And the two of them came over and pitched the idea to some city officials and some stakeholders, and everyone was like, yeah, this is cool, let's do it. So that would have been in 2017.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
It's just amazing the way that art has advanced. I believe there's a church in San Antonio that does some mapping artistic elements on their building as well to kind of tell their history and their story. Aurora, of course, really got some wonderful press and beautiful installations over in Dallas. And I know a lot of people talk about Fort Worth and Dallas and the separation of the two boundaries. And I just think it's great that public art here in Fort Worth, the Arts Council, all of that seems to be trying to bridge the two together a little bit more, which I think is just a wonderful way to not try to pocket and separate all of these artists. But I just love the way that we've taken the approach to really kind of create a bridge and blend what I think is two great cities. And I've said on a few box lunches, I'm not sure if Fort Worth gets the recognition that they deserve. And honestly, I think it really is just important to do all they can to platform the artists. Now we have two that are on the tower, and then we've been visiting in box lunch with the 10 on the ground. Is that right?
Right.
Do you mind telling us a little bit about the ground elements that will be surrounding the tower as well? If anyone wants to know specifics about the individual artists, I'll encourage you to go back and watch some of the past box lunches to meet all of them personally. But what is the idea behind the 10 artists on the ground surrounding the larger tower?
Well, as I mentioned before, that's kind of the Aurora model. And when they first pitched the idea of let's do projection mapping on the tower, they always put forward this idea of a more inclusive event, that it wouldn't just be the tower, that you need other things going on. And that's the opportunity, at least this time, to let our local artists take that. My hope is that our local artists are going to be inspired by what Rafika and Quayla do and get themselves ready to be considered for the next go round, which we hope will happen in a couple of years. But I should mention, it's one event. There's kind of two funding sources that have come into play. The City of Fort Worth commissioned Rafik and Quayola. The city also paid for major infrastructure in the ground, data and electrical cables for locations around the tower. So these high-powered laser projectors would have a place to plug in without having to use a bunch of noisy generators. Of course, projectors are rented. They change technology so fast. We're not going to buy those. But so that was, and that's mainly my contribution as a project manager is on the public art side. But Karen Wiley and Wesley Gentle of the Arts Council were able to score a major grant from the Texas Commission on the Arts. It's a cultural district grant of $225,000, plus an NEA grant for $10,000. And that is really supporting everything that's not sexy, if you will, about an event. You know, there's
Yeah.
lots of costs, you know, there's security and,
Oh, yes.
you know, porta potties and
Oh,
signs.
yeah.
But a nice part of that budget was set aside, and Dr. Lauren Cross was selected to be the curator. And the Aurora team kind of took the lead, working with Lauren. And as she, and we provided names of artists that we thought she might want to look at. Of course, she knows everybody, so she didn't really need any help. But she came forward with 10. We originally were thinking she'd do 8, but she said, no, I need to do more. I want all these different stories told.
Right.
And I want this to be a really diverse exhibition. So it was, decided that that could happen. And I was really impressed. I hadn't really walked the footprint of the area they're covering until, well, you were there.
Yes.
Earlier this week. But it's going to be impressive. It's more human scale work, but there's going to be projection on big walls. You know, the auditorium, you'll be walking around the auditorium back there. Bernardo Ballerino is doing an amazing installation inside the parking garage.
Yes.
It's going to look like a cathedral.
Yes.
And there's there's one artist, and I don't know the names that go with each piece, but there's one artist who's highlighting the North Side skater culture.
Yes. Yes.
And there's an Asian artist. There's Cedric and Letitia Huckabee. I mean, it's going to be amazing, and everyone's going to see different points of view. I think there's going to be some abstraction, but I think there's going to be a lot of imagery that's more, accessible.
Yes.
There's also going to be sound. So prepare to be amazed.
Yeah, it really does sound truly amazing. And, when we walked around there a few days back, I don't know if people really recognize the scope of all of this art that's going to be literally viewable, I would think, for miles. I mean, I know I can see Pioneer Tower quite a ways down the road. So I really hope people are encouraged to come engage with a massive public art installation. I'm gonna put you on the spot here a little bit.
Okay.
All right. So you said, and this is a direct quote, artworks commissioned by the city of Fort Worth through Fort Worth Public Art are the tangible results of a process that stimulates dialogue, collaboration, and sometimes multiple iterations of the artist's idea. Ultimately, the works represent a moment in time in Fort Worth's rich history and, collectively, reference the past, present, and future of the city. So, Martha, my question to you is...
Pretty good.
I know, I think I might have... You sound great. You're beautiful. Tell me how this particular exhibit ties into that. Now, you mentioned it's a history, if you will, a telling by one of the artists, another representation of nature and horses, which again seems to be how we're perceived. What is the importance of this event, particularly to Fort Worth Public Art?
Well, it so happens that in October, the public art program turns 20 years old, 2 decades. And by the end of this city fiscal year, which ends in September, we will have completed 95 projects.
Wow.
And many of those projects have multiple art components. So that's like over 300 physical objects. Right. And this is in addition to the art the city already owned or that has been donated to the city in the meantime. So right. It's a big collection. But throughout the history of the program, most of our funding has been tied to certain spaces, places where the city's doing capital improvements. And there was a time when we had some more flexible funding that we were able to take art into areas that weren't receiving capital improvements. But beyond that, it's been a little bit more for us, I would say. Sure. The art is more about our neighborhoods or our streets or this right. or that. But when we had the Fort Worth Public Art Master Plan update created, and this was by the same consultants that helped us back in 2003, they could see that this program had matured. We'd been able to do a lot of exciting projects, but it was time to do something big and to think about, how do we how do we present Fort Worth to the rest of the state, country, and world? And this idea of iconic public artworks came to be. And what that really means is people started thinking about, the Cloud Gate in Chicago
Yes.
by Anish Kapoor, and how you see that artwork, that's Chicago, right? So do we have a piece like that in Fort Worth? Maybe not yet. I mean, there's some pieces you could point to that are, are in more prominent places. But this idea of doing something bigger. And so Pioneer Tower is the first of 4 locations that were recommended in our master plan. So, so there's that idea of let's also do some more outward focus, things that are in key gathering places in our city. But beyond that, we need to think about how art is changing. I mean, it used to be painting and sculpture.
Yes.
As I've been in this field, I've seen, I'm a photographer, that's what I do for myself. I've seen the change in all these different techniques where if you're a photographer, you can do public art now because your photography or your painting or whatever can be digitized and put on porcelain enamel, or like Mike Mandel did next door at the Western Heritage Parking Garage, made into mosaics. So there's a lot of technology that is informing this, well, the whole field of art, but the field of public art most certainly. We've dabbled in what's called new media. Christopher Janney did the piece at the parking garage on Houston Street that's across from the convention center. And I've come to find out he's kind of like a grandfather. I hope he doesn't mind if he hears this. The grandfather of new media public art. I mean, he was one of the very first in his practice to make a stairway that when you stepped on it, it played sounds. He's a jazz musician, and he's also an artist and studied architecture. So his piece down at that garage includes light, includes colored glass, but there's a soundscape in that elevator tower, and you hear the horses plopping, and you hear little bits and pieces of history. So it was interesting, a couple of years ago, before the pandemic, I was able to go to a conference called CodaWorks, and it was in El Paso, and it was really a gathering of artists and fabricators, but they put a lot of emphasis on technology. And there was Christopher Janney. I hadn't seen him in years, and he was on the program, and so was Rafiq Anadol, who is, I think, probably still in his 30s.
Oh my goodness. So
and there's this continuum of artists that have been informed, and now Rafiq is kind of a big name, but who are they going to inform, and where is technology going to take art? So I think as a program and as a 21st century city that Fort Worth is, and a really vibrant city, it's really great that we're open, that our city leaders are open to taking a risk and doing something we've never done before. So I think that's what's very significant to me about this project.
It just sounds absolutely incredible. Now I'm gonna put you on the spot again before we get into some more of the specifics about how, when, where, and why. You said you've been doing this for 30 years now, right? Mm-hmm. Are you willing to admit on air what has been your favorite piece in the last 30 years? Or will this be it?
It's kind of like the one that was just finished is my favorite piece.
Fair enough. We'll just leave it at that, all right?
But I will say this, when I go back to Austin, and I do go visit Austin pretty regularly to see friends, and I'll run across a piece that I worked on, I'm like, oh, it's still there. It's like a baby. They're like babies.
Now, and this is, before I challenge everyone out there, I want to make sure I'm saying the right information. On the public art website, there's a map, so to speak, of where all Fort Worth public art is. Is that correct?
Yes, but it's not completely up to date. In fact, I think we're going to get some help from a city GIS expert to help us upgrade that soon.
But there is something on there that says where you can go look at public art. So I'm going to challenge everybody out there watching, print that off, and then I want you to go and take pictures of any public art that you can find in that little scavenger hunt, post it down in the comments, or just put it on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, share these works. These are very important parts of our culture here in Fort Worth. These things need to be shared. They need to be recognized. And a lot of people don't even know they're out there.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to me when people say, oh my gosh, I drove by this wonderful mural over on so-and-so. And that some of that is public art. And I think that people lose sight that it is more important to have our culture, our history, our art with us. It's not all about just keeping the streets clean.
Right.
Sometimes we need that imagery to move us, to entice us, to encourage us to understand who and what we are as a city. And I don't think people always understand that some of those tangible structures and environmental aspects are perceived as who and what we are as a town, as a person, a people, as anybody you may bump across and get to spend 30 minutes with having coffee or whatever. And people perceive us in regards to what they see driving through the city, if it's just passing by on 30. And so I encourage everyone to go to the public art website, find the little map, go track them down, take some pictures.
There's actually under collection, I think there's mini tours. You can even download PDFs. I think we have 10 or so up there where you can just have a PDF that shows you where 3 pieces are that are kind of close together in a certain sector of town. So that's a great way to see something.
Yes, and if anybody's out there nervous about being out in the world, roll up your windows, drive around. There is still art to see, and you don't necessarily have to go into a museum if for some reason you're not comfortable with this. There are some beautiful, beautiful public art pieces out there, and of course we thank you for championing all that, and just can't wait to see what else is coming up. So I'm going to say real quick, new stories, new futures at the Pioneer Tower at the Will Rogers Auditorium in the Cultural District of Fort Worth. I always try to make sure I'm saying the right thing. This is a free 2-night event taking place Friday, August 20th, Saturday, the 21st, from 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. It is absolutely free. All you have to do is go to the newstoriesnewfutures.org website. You'll sign up for a reserved time to come onto the grounds and see all of this fabulous work. Now, in addition to that, this week, if you're still up in the air about buying in and coming and joining us here, we do have some other events as well in the Cultural District. On Friday, August 20th, the museums of the Cultural District will be staying open a little later till around 9, I believe.
Some 8, some 9.
Yep, which is when they'll be lighting up the tower. And then I also want people to know that at 6 p.m. at the Kimball Art Museum and online, we have an artist talk featuring, and I'm going to let you say their names because I don't want to screw it up.
Rafiq Anadol Koyala and the Pioneer Tower curator, Dune Choi. And that's Wednesday night. Yeah.
Yes, Wednesday at 6. That will take place at the Kimball Art Museum. We will be streaming that as well on the Arts Council Fort Worth Facebook page as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not all. On Saturday, the 21st at 2 p.m. and again at 4 p.m., we will have artist talks moderated by Dr. Lauren Cross and featuring 5 of the 10 artists on the ground at 2, and then the other 5 at 4 o'clock. 3 o'clock. Oh no, I need to change that on my notes. This also is at the Kimball Museum and will be online as well. Fabulous artists. I'm just going to say a couple: Jessica Fuentes, Sierra Ella Bryant, Jeff Gibbons, Nick Bontrager, did I say that right? Bernardo, of course, Valerino, Raul Rodriguez, Angela Faz, Cedric Huckabee, and Letitia Huckabee, and Jinye Hung. So some incredible, incredible local artists. I think we covered most of it, yes?
Yeah, you know, one other thing I would just add is this time ticket is partially about keeping us from getting too crowded. We're doing everything we can to keep everyone safe. We're encouraging mask wearing. There will be masks available,
Yes.
but it is outdoors, and hopefully we can have a great time and stay safe.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And they will have some general food and beverage, is that fair to say?
Yeah, there'll be some bars.
Awesome, oh,
And
even
some
better.
food trucks.
And some porta potties as well.
Oh, yes.
So
And
it,
it's family friendly. Bring your
Yes.
kids, even though it's a little late, you know.
and literally just really sounds like an absolute incredible event. Do you mind telling everybody the Fort Worth Public Art website to seek more information,
Yes.
should they?
fwpublicart.org, and that's FW as in Fort Worth. We have a Pioneer Tower link on top, and you can get in there and read about all these artists and the background of the project and anything you want to know. So
Very, very
yeah.
exciting. Martha, we're so grateful for you taking the time and joining us here on Box Lunch. Thank you for all you do for Fort Worth Public Art and all of that. I've seen it firsthand, and you just do a wonderful job. We're so very blessed to have you, not only here at the Art Center, but also in Fort Worth as well. So with that being said, that wraps up a in-person edition of our Box Lunch episode. We'll be back very soon. Please, folks, come join us, support this wonderful event, and cheers, and we'll see you all again real soon. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a great day.